Hello, today for review I've got a new desktop headphones amplifier made by Topping, model A30 Pro. They released this model not so long ago, and of course they released a digital to analog converter made in similar design, so they know how to do the business here. And they released two devices that users can use separately or together as a stack. Actually, this concept of stacking devices gathering a bit more popularity nowadays, and some people prefer that. First of all, it gives you some degree of flexibility in changing the parts of your system, and also it looks more fancy than all-in-one device. But I decided to start with headphones amplifier. I recently reviewed Gustar, the digital to analog converter, so I decided to go for the headphones amplifier by Topping first, and later I will do a review for the D30 Pro digital to analog converter created to accompany this device. It's not expensive, $350, but you know this device gives huge bang for a buck, and probably it's that case when device can be considered as exceeding its price range. I don't like this word, but let's talk about some specifications. So it's a balanced headphone amplifier. You can visit the shop link in the description. I will add links to the Linsole in the description. Price is $350, and there are a lot of different abbreviations of technologies that Topping utilized inside. I don't remember them, and I don't know meaning of some of them, but actually it's a high current amplifier and high power amplifier. High current means that there won't be any issues in driving low impedance loads, and high power, it's just high power. For 16 ohms of impedance it delivers 6 watts, not milliwatts, 6 watts, or 6000 milliwatts. For 32 ohms load it will be 5.5 watts, for 300 ohm impedance it will be 840 milliwatts, and for the 600 ohms it will be 420, so really high output power, and it will be enough for vast majority of device. And at the same time they managed to achieve the low noise floor, so it will be good with sensitive in-ear monitors too. It won't make much sense in sensitive in-ear monitors in general, because they usually works well without amplification. But if you have this setup, you can use IAMs with it too, and it will drive them really good. I'm not a measurement type of guy, but if you interested in measurements, audio science reviews measured this amplifier, and it now obtains the top positions of the rating. So for me it's not a huge deal, but some people take care about that. For me, more important factor is the sound, and spoiler, it's a good, so you can stop watching review right now. I already said almost anything, but of course I'm kidding, so I told almost anything. Price, specs, other stuff, so let's have a closer look. Box is average in terms of size, not big, not small, but actually it's much bigger than device it holds actually. And inside you will get power cable, user manual, warranty card, 6.3mm adapter, and device itself. So you can see that amplifier is much smaller than this box. So let me put it aside. We'll put amplifier here and we'll zoom a little bit. So it's really small, but it's nicely built. It feels really solid. They use thick aluminum to create the case, and it feels and looks pretty nice. Designed probably not for trypophobic people, because not everyone likes that amount of holes, but they did that for the ventilation purpose. So holes on the up lid, on the bottom, and on the side. So when you decide where to put it, just be sure to provide good amount of airflow around it. Actually, during my tests I didn't get noticeable heat. It's not getting really hot, maybe because actually this whole thing is working and making it colder. Design is nice, it definitely has its own unique look and it feels pretty good. There is a silver version, or if you bored of silver you can get black. Or if you bored from black you can get silver, so it's a matter of taste. And here it is. So even silicone fits on the bottom, so it has a good grip and stands reliably on the table. It's not super heavy, but pretty heavy, and it feels solid, you know, for such a small device. So probably let's start from the rear part. So here is power input, on-off button, and two outputs. Regular RCA output and balanced output. It's actually 6.3mm connectors, so you will need to get the 6.3mm to RCA cables. And actually this is just pass-through output, so it doesn't amplify them and it doesn't control the volume. So just pure pass-through. It's not a preamplifier thing, it's just for convenience purposes. And inputs, RCA input and dual XLR, so everything is standard and pretty expected. And on the front panel there are few additional controls. So first one is input, and actually they combined it with on-off switch. So lower position is off, XLR, RCA. But off doesn't mean power off, it just off the inputs. And to power off it completely you need to use this toggle. And gain, there are three levels of gain: medium, high and low. And keep in mind that it offers you plus 14 decibels and minus 14 decibels. It's a pretty huge swing, and be careful, because toggling from one position to the higher one could be pretty painful. Usually it won't be a big issue, but better to avoid that. I think that vast majority of users will use the medium gain, but of course sometimes low and high could be pretty handy. Balanced output with 4 pins XLR, 6.3mm single-ended, and Pentacon balanced output, so good device for modern users. You can connect your favorite in-ear monitors. And the volume knob, pretty smooth, some good potentiometer used here, because there is almost zero channel imbalance even at the beginning. It has a smooth rotation and it has zero noise when you rotate it, so in this aspect it does its job nicely, and you can easily find the appropriate volume levels that will match your headphones or earphones, so also good here. And probably to summarize this part, I think that design is good. Of course tastes differ, but I really like it. Design is good, great set of inputs, outputs and convenient controls, so everything is done nicely here. Forgot to mention one small thing. There is a ground lift toggle. So in this position it will use this central pin for grounding, but if you have some issues with grounding, sometimes it can, especially if you have many devices connected with some ground loops possibly, so sometimes there could be background noise caused by the not proper grounding. You can toggle it to the lift mode, and in many cases it can solve issues. So nice feature to have. And of course about the sound, this time I decided to make a small setup. As headphones I will use my beloved VA1 DIY planars from Kiev. They of course look like something handmade, but I need something signature to show in videos. I don't have a fancy keyboard with my nickname written with white caps, so I will use these headphones. And amplifier itself, FIO M15 as a transport or as a source, and it's connected via the most audiophilic cables by Ugreen. So it's 3.5mm to double RCA cable, and actually it's a pretty good connectivity option, and it's also, you know, a nice usage scenario for such amplifier. If you don't need digital to analog converter, for example, you can use it with your DEP easily and it will do a job well. So it's turned on and actually it even plays sound. So need to stop it before 6 seconds pass, or YouTube will ban me for the copyright violations. Anyway, let's go back to the sound, and I already said that it's powerful and it's dynamic. With such a crazy power, of course, dynamic is on the stellar level, and actually Topping decided to create a non-natural sounding amplifier. It's not super colored, but they've added a bit of spice to the sound, and they just boosted its engagement. And this coloration is pretty small and it's done in an accurate way, but it's definitely not monitoring and not that wire with gain type of devices, not something dry and absolutely uncolored. So there is slight coloration, and that actually makes everything a bit more interesting, so we can talk about that. So bass has a slight, small, really small, I will say small many times, small hint of added weight, not quantity of bass added, but just a bit more weight, meaning a bit more impact, a bit more highlighted small nuances in the low frequencies and so on. So it's highlighting bass, but not by boosting it, but by adding that actually not adding but highlighting that small nuances and adding more weight. So bass sounds engaging and really embossed or with highlighted naturalness. Of course, depth is really good, goes up almost to maximum depth. It controlled well, and of course it has great impact, great punch, kick, strike, and all that other synonyms. But you know, it's common for the powerful amplifiers, so bass kick is nice, and it will be nice with vast majority of headphones. So it controls bass well too, and it sounds really natural, and actually it's even highlighting that naturalness. All that small resonances, all that small vibrations of wood or brass or some strings and all that tiny stuff, it will highlight a little bit and make them a bit more fun. And actually, you know, probably it's a great idea because it's targeted towards the middle segment, and in middle segment many people prefer fun signature without going into that absolutely natural and transparent sounding, because we need emotions, we like them, and this amplifier gives that. And as a first example, Pain of Salvation acoustic album. I often use it as a bass example, and track to the Shoreline is not an exception. They have a good record quality, not perfect, but good for rock music especially. And they have nice bass guitar here, they have nice drums, and that requires good bass performance, and actually this amplifier delivers that with a great emotions. Mids are almost transparent with great resolution, with good amount of details, but not going into the micro detalization, not trying to be to sound like clinical or like absolutely precise, not trying to dissect your music into tiny slices. It has an engaging musical representation with slightly boosted dynamics, with slightly boosted emotions, so music will sound emotional, vocals will have great body, and instruments will have a great body too. Female vocals will have a bit of additional crispness and so on. So it's just highlighting that fun stuff in music. But also just a little bit, it's not a huge coloration, just adding a bit of sprinkles or spices or all over the whole representation. Imaginary stage is good, it's noticeably above average, not the biggest one, but pretty good. And actually width is a bit better than depth. Depth is okay, but width is really good, so probably like something like that. It's not super critical for the quality of records. Of course, something really poorly recorded will sound poorly, but at the same time it won't highlight the issues, and it will sometimes even try to spice that problems with that own emotional representation, and in many cases you will focus on the emotions and won't be focused on the issues. And as an example for the mid frequencies, it's Roger Waters, Too Much Rope, from his Amused to Death. So Roger Waters being sarcastic as usual, so classical album. Anyway, I like here, what I especially like here, it's back vocal, and the backing vocal part here is nice, and this amplifier definitely represent it very nicely. You know, good balance. It highlights that a little bit, but at the same time not pushing it too forward, because it's back vocal and it should stay on back, but at the same time it's rendered really nicely. Instrumental part is good, and of course vocal part too, but actually Waters is good singer, but of course probably not the greatest one, but of course good. So instrumental part here also plays vital role, and this amplifier delivers it nicely. And treble has really good extension, and luckily Topping decided not to change treble in any way, so they didn't add additional crispness or sparkling, don't boost treble, this amplifier don't try to make it softer, more comfortable, just as is, with good transparency, with good proper attacks and decays, nice resolution. Of course layering is pretty basic here, but still it's at least present, and overtone saturation is nice, so it gives you nice amount of decays, nice amount of timbres for the timbre rich instruments, and so on. As an example of treble, it's Like a Rolling Stone, cover version by Sara K from Chesky Rock Reimagined album. I really like this compilation, and rock classic sounds nice when performed with acoustic guitar and with great vocal. And of course, as usual for Chesky, it recorded perfectly, meaning tons of overtones going really high to the treble area, and sounding absolutely superb. And this amplifier plays this track pretty nicely. In terms of pairing, it's almost absolutely universal. You can plug anything here, it will drive almost anything, just few exceptions like Sasvara, Abyss, maybe some other toughest models, but except of that few toughest models, it will sound nicely, even tough planar magnetic headphones. And what is more interesting, low impedance planar magnetic headphones that sometimes is even more complex load than high impedance ones. It drives perfectly, and it has a really good black background. So on the low gain it's barely audible, almost inaudible, so somewhere on the limit of audible. So pretty universal in this aspect. Unfortunately, I don't have anything to compare with. I don't have a separate headphones amplifier for quite a long time, so I can't do any comparisons. Hopefully I will get something in future, but besides that, even without comparisons, I'm pretty sure that it's one of the best devices available now on market in this middle segment. And you know, it's another great sign that good sound goes to the more affordable segments, mainly thanks to the Chinese companies that try to deliver more value for customers in their constant competitions. So A30 Pro definitely will get more reviews in near future. Keep Keep it in mind if you're looking for some desktop amplifier without breaking your bank. Thank you for listening, thank you for your attention, and of course have a nice day.